starting on your end, or?
Yep, no, I do.
Okay. All right, hello everybody. Dan Ushman here with TrendSpider. I'm on the line with Jake Kujastik, who heads up BizDev for us and one of our founding members. Before we get going here, I just want to make a quick sound check, make sure everybody can hear me, make sure everybody can see our screen here. Can someone just confirm that in chat?
Oh, good. Beautiful.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. This webinar is to give you all a bit of an update on where TrendSpider is, the progress that we made last year, and to give you a little preview and a little heads up about what's coming in 2020. And we're really excited to show you guys this, especially towards the end of this presentation when we get to the scanning part. Just briefly though, as I mentioned, I'm Dan Ushman. We also have Jake on the line here. We're two of the founding members of this company. There are about 15 total people in TrendSpider. We've highlighted some of our core team on the screen. You know, if anybody's happens to be a full stack developer or a QA engineer, we're definitely hiring and looking to grow our team so we can build out our product faster and you know, accomplish more and help our users be more effective when they're out there trading. Want to change slides? Okay, awesome. Before I, that's awesome, Sharisha. Before we get too far into our presentation here, I just want to give a quick overview of our vision, right? Because we believe that retail trading is broken. We think that retail traders, we don't just think, we know this through experience being traders ourselves, but we know that retail traders are at a disadvantage. And that's an informational disadvantage. That's a technological disadvantage. You know, that's a disadvantage across the board. We're in the markets trading against prop shops, against hedge funds, against bank trade desks, and all of these organizations are really sophisticated. They've got advanced technology to help them identify trades, to help them test strategies, and to help them time their trades, right? To monitor their trades so that they can get in and out at better, more opportune, smarter times. So that's what we're looking to fix here with TrendSpider, and that's what we've been on a mission to do since we started this project 4 years ago. And I'd like, you know, I'm very proud to say we're very, very far along in that. I think a lot of our customers, a lot of the users here will agree with that. And the way that we're doing this is by building an integrated set of tools around a charting platform. Right, so that's scanning, which we'll talk about in detail later today, but that's also automated analysis, trend line detection, fib detection, candlestick pattern recognition. That's our alerts and our backtesting engines that allow you to test strategies and then time moves based on the technical conditions that you know, exist on the charts. So that's something that we're very proud of, and we're really excited to keep building this. And I think that everybody here is going to be very pleased and very excited when you see what we've got brewing. Slide.
Can you see it?
Yes. You know, that's basically it. I'm going to hand it over to Jake for a little bit here. Jake's going to take you through our agenda here and give you some of the highlights. And then I'm going to take back over in a little bit and show you guys some really cool stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dan, for that intro. Hey, everyone, this is Jake. I usually do the Sunday webinars and do a lot of, as Dan said, the biz dev side of things, working with our partners, as well as working with customers who want to help grow as well through our affiliate program. And I'll be mentioning that a little bit at the end of the presentation. So what I really want to focus on is going to be highlights from 2019 and looking at the roadmap into 2020. So to start off with, for 2019 highlights, this was really a very important year for us. We really became, you know, from kind of, I don't want to say it was a single kind of feature platform, but trend lines were really our main feature. And what we were able to do in 2019 was bring the product to really be a multifaceted system where it's not just trend lines or it's not just, you know, back testing. We really are working on creating this product that is an all-in-one tool. So some of the things that we really introduced that were huge milestones for us was I guess this is kind of falls under a number of different things, but the ability to create these conditional criteria without having to code anything in. So that deals with the strategy tester, that deals with the way that you can create these multi-condition alerts, and then and really just being able to kind of not have the coding side to that. I know there are a lot of people that do like coding and that type of thing, but the average trader, if you can make the process more efficient, the ability not having to code anything in has really been nice for strategy testing and alerting. We did add multiple workspaces, so you can have multiple tabs open at once. Let's say you want to watch SPY on one tab, but you're also watching the Qs and maybe VIX on two others. So you're able to not just have one workspace open. On top of that, we did add infinite scrolling, so we do have the ability to go back much further than we did before. I would say probably the biggest milestone are the Raindrop charts from last year, which came out in June. And this is simply because this really innovated the way volume flow is visualized. And when we first created Raindrops, we liked the concept. We just didn't necessarily know how it would be useful and how you could actually utilize the Raindrop. And what we try to do on our Twitter is go through a bunch of different case studies, not only on Raindrops, but other features as well, that highlight how these features can be useful. So the Raindrop charts are something that I'll go over a little more in detail here once I go through this list, but I would definitely say this is something that makes us truly unique. We do have a ton of new indicators added, and many more will be coming in 2020. We added new crypto data feeds, and we are working on, we are supporting crypto futures, but we're working on getting even more data in there as well. We added the anchored VWAP from Alpha Trends. The creator, Brian Shannon, has been working with us a lot, and we'll continue to work with him into 2020 with possibly some more features. We did increase the annotative capabilities quite a bit, and we do have the real-time updates now that we introduced. So from the conditional criteria alerts and kind of the back tester, this was really important, as I mentioned, because you now don't have the you don't necessarily need to know how to code to create simple logic or even complex logic. So in this case, we simply have the MACD cross. We've got the RSI doing one thing. We are looking for a particular candlestick, which was the bullish engulfing, and then we're looking for the percent range to do something. So without having to code this in, it's a very easy to use visual interface. This is just one conditional tree. If we went added another parameter, you can create multiple conditional trees where, all of the following need to happen, but then any of the following need to happen. So maybe we want all of these things to happen, but then we want, let's say any of the 5 different bearish candlesticks to happen as well, or something, or whatever you'd like. So the visual interface is something that's really been helpful, not only for me, who doesn't have much experience on the coding side. I've been in the markets for a long time, but I just don't know that much about coding. This is something that really helps me out and some of our team members who don't code as well. The strategy tester kind of goes along the lines with the conditional criteria alerts. So you can essentially create a set of conditional criteria in your alert, and then you can have the system back test that. And so that's where you would come into the strategy tester here, and you can see that these conditions were easily transferred over to the strategy tester, and then we can create our exit conditions. In this case, I just created the 30 candles later once all of these hit. Now, the Raindrop charts, as I mentioned, is definitely the most, I would say, unique thing about the platform. There are a ton of unique things, but these are just something that the world has really never seen before. And, there is this continued question of, is this neutral raindrop? Is it blue or is it purple? And, I'm going to say blue, but I can see the argument for purple there too. This is really to visualize how volume's flowing. So I know a lot of people on here have probably heard about raindrops before, but those that have not, the raindrop is essentially 2 layers, right? You've got your first layer, which is just like any other bar chart, where you've got, instead of your open here and your close here, you've got your volume weighted average price for the first half of the period on the left, and then the VWAP for the second half of the period on the right-hand side. The second layer to this is the actual volume profile painted on the range for the day, for the period, whatever you're looking at. Could be 10-minute, could be 30-minute, could be the day, whatever candle time period you're looking at. And this really helps you get a sense of how how conviction is going. Are sellers really in control, or was that just a small blip in the radar that volume wasn't really backing it? So that's how I generally use it, to visualize volume breaking through either support or resistance. But the neutral raindrop, the blue - purple raindrop, can be very useful for reversal areas. So for example, I think Boeing has 2 blue raindrops after the huge move down over the last couple, let's say 6 to 8 weeks. And you can really see, is this possibly reversal? You never know, but that's something that the blue raindrop can help with. Not every chart's going to be the same. Sometimes the blue raindrop is going to appear so many times that it becomes not valuable, but there are charts where the blue raindrop really does have some significance. The volume tools that we really introduced in 2019 mentioned the Alpha Trends Anchored VWAP. We did introduce the volume by price, or the volume profile, where you can actually anchor that as well. And so that's something that's really powerful, because a lot of the time it's hard to figure out on the chart, if you just got a volume profile, where is the volume profile starting? And so we created a very easy to use visual feature where you can just move your line back and forth to anchor that. We also added the raindrops, as I mentioned. Those are really all about visualizing that volume and seeing where buyers and sellers are within a range. Other milestones that we did come up with and achieve in 2019, we did have a ton of different platform enhancements, from new timeframes and different back testing kind of statistics, and the price explorer on the back tester is something that's really cool as well. We were able to really grow our social media presence, and we really appreciate all of you for helping us really get to that point. It wouldn't have been possible without you guys continuing to support us and continuing to share and spread the word. We do have a big partner list, so for those that are looking to trade or learn how to trade, we do have a partner page that you can check out, and they use a lot of different features on the platform that you can maybe see some different case studies how people use it. We had a ton of different alerts. We had 3Q5, 325 whatever back tests. So Dan, I think that's a mistype there. But
yeah, it should be 35,000 back tests as of December.
Okay. I wasn't sure if that was like a power or some type of
it's just
thing we got there. But yeah, we had a ton of back tests, a ton of alerts, and that's really kind of showing that these are features that people are really starting to utilize and making their life easier in the trading world. The platform roadmap, Dan and I are both going to talk about this a little bit, but when we first started, the state of the platform was really just charting and analysis. And right now it's 4 things. It's charting, analysis, back testing, and a very strong alerting platform where, it's not just alert me when the price hits this area. It's alert me when the price hits within $1 of this area, or alert me when the price does this, the MACD does that, and 10 other things. So this is something that will be increased, obviously, and the next layer of this is the scanner, and this is something Dan's going to be really touching on a lot in the second half of this presentation, and it's really another kind of way that users can find value in the product by, you've got all of these other features, but you still need to be able to efficiently find these different conditions or these different setups that you're looking for, and that's where the scanner really makes things a lot more efficient, and we're excited to get that in. Dan, anything you want to add on that side, or
no? I think all of this stuff, and if you click over one more time to the next slide, I think all of this stuff is to kind of realize the full vision of our roadmap, right? And that vision is to automate as much of the trading process as possible, from the very beginning of finding symbols, finding charts that you might want to trade with the scanner, to analyzing them, to back testing strategies, to monitoring those charts for when your conditions are true, and ultimately to connect your brokerage account directly into TrendSpider, so you can place orders from within TrendSpider, and so that you can automate the execution of those orders. So you can say, look, when these conditions are true, confirm with me, and then place the order for me. Exactly, Derek. The idea is to give retail traders, back to this idea of being at a disadvantage, back their advantage back. right? To give you guys the tools, to give ourselves the tools. I mean, I trade almost every single day. To give all of us the tools we need to be competitive again, because right now it is very difficult for retail traders to be consistently profitable. I think everybody here knows that and has experienced that firsthand. And our goal here is to change that, right? And it's a very complicated problem to solve, because trading is very personal. Because trading has a lot of idiosyncratic nuance to each individual trader, and your style and your what patterns that you look for and the approach that you take is going to vary from user to user. So our goal is to build flexible tools that can be applied to a wide range of trading styles to essentially automate the entire process, or as much of it as possible, but to do so without taking away your discretionary ability to make decisions as a trader. Right. And that means this is not intended to be some proprietary system, that does things automatically. It's not meant to give buy and sell alerts. It's meant to take your strategy, let you set it up the way you want it, and then to help you execute on that on a consistent basis. So, that's kind of the roadmap. We're making some huge progress. The scanners will be out in a few weeks here. And then, the next two big ticket items are all around execution.
Yep, absolutely, and that will really kind of bring the thing full circle, and you'll really have an all-in-one tool at that point. So we're excited to get that in. Other key roadmap items. So really beyond what we just talked about, beyond the main roadmap, we do want to add fundamental data. We want to add alerts that are going to work across an entire watch list, where you can say, I've got a list of 50 stocks I'm watching. Whenever a MACD crosses on any of these stocks in the watch list, I'll be alerted. Same thing with backtesting. You can will be able to backtest a whole watch list and be able to see what stock is most responsive to this particular set of conditions, and see that particular kind of statistic. And that's something that can be really powerful if you're looking at different strategies, and different strategies are great, and they all work sometimes on different stocks. So being able to backtest those different strategies on a watch list will help you kind of filter that out. A huge thing, this is going to be awesome. Weekly and monthly raindrop charts. This is something I'm excited about, because I personally am more of a swing trader, and I look at the weekly chart a ton. I really don't go below. I look at the 15 and the 30 for just general kind of what's going on, but I really do like to look at the longer term charts. And so the monthly and the weekly raindrop charts are going to give us a ton of information about what went on within that monthly time period and the weekly time period. Custom scripting and premium indicator marketplace. Those are kind of one and the same, but not really. The custom scripting is going to kind of give those that do like to code the ability to create their own indicators and that type of thing. But we will have the ability to actually choose different premium indicators from partners or other influencers in the industry, and you'll be able to purchase their indicators and use them on the platform as well. So, the roadmap, this is definitely not an exhaustive list. There's a ton of other things, but these are some of the main things we want to focus on top of what we've already went over.
Absolutely, and I just want to add, and before I pop into this demo, but the idea with custom indicators is that you will be able to use them not just on your charts, right? There's a lot of TradingView has the ability to have custom indicators, right? But you can't really utilize them in backtesting without writing code. You couldn't automate execution off them. You couldn't scan the market using them, right? Our whole thesis here is a flexible platform. So if there's a custom indicator, if you're using Market God or something like that, and it's available in TrendSpider, you can then utilize them to scan. You'll be able to say, look, give me every stock that on the 10-minute chart has a blue raindrop and a Market God buy signal on it. And that would, be a big evolution, we think, from the way that custom indicators are used today. So I'm gonna. Is there a slide here, Jake, or do I just go right into the demo? I think there's a slide.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. So, the main thing we really want to talk about on this presentation is the scanning functionality that's coming. And this is scheduled to be released this month. So, our current tentative date, and please don't hold me to this, but is the 15th of January. It may be a little bit later than that, depending on how the development goes. But the idea here is that you can define a very specific multi-time frame conditional set of criterias, and then search a universe that can be either a standard universe, like the S&P 500, or a watch list that you create. And find any symbol that has those conditions on it. And it's very powerful. I'm going to show you it actually in a minute here. Is there another slide? Or should I share my screen?
Let's see here. One thing that I did want to mention that I don't think we really brought up, Dan, is international data and other data. We just had a question about that, the FTSE and that type of thing.
We did, and we'll touch on that question towards the end. I just don't want to get too far off topic here.
Yep.
The plan, just briefly, is we want to support every market in the entire world, right? So we want to have every single exchange, every single crypto exchange, stock exchange, futures exchange, forex exchange, you name it. Our goal is to support everything. Now that's going to take time, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
So this is the last slide before.
Just to touch on some of the scanner's core functionality, because this is all new stuff to everybody here. The idea here is that you'll be able to scan using technical data first. Fundamental data will come soon. It will support out the gate all U.S. equities. We'll later layer on crypto and forex within the weeks following the initial launch of it. You'll be able to scan across any different type of chart type, from Heikin-Ashi to traditional candles to raindrops, and you'll be able to support Michael. You'll be able to support multi-time frame scans as well. The initial release will support 5 time frames in one scan. So you can say, give me every stock where RSI is oversold on the 5-minute, 10-minute, 30-minute, 1 hour, and daily charts, or whatever you want like that. And you can combine and mix and match criterias using any time frame conditions you can dream of. The multi-time frame scan will happen instantaneously as the same scan. So you'll get one watch list, and the conditions that are used to generate that watch list can contain up to 5 separate time frames in them. And you can mix and match those time frames, right? So you can say the 20-period EMA on the 5-minute chart crosses through the 100-period EMA on the daily chart, right? And any combinations of that up to 5 in one scan. It's super duper powerful. Along with that, I'm going to show you this first when we get into the presentation here, is a new watch list interface. You can have multiple watch lists open at once now. It's really cool. And you can see which symbols appear in multiple scans at once, because you can have more than one watch list generated by a scanner open at the same time. So I think that's the last slide, Jake. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. So you can go ahead and share yours. I just disabled screen sharing.
All right. Enable screen sharing. Choose a window. All right. Just want to make sure everybody can see this. Can you see this, Jake?
Yep.
All right. So guys, we're looking at our staging environment here. So this is not all available to you yet. This will become available very soon. But in the meanwhile, you're going to have to kind of look at it from my screen. First thing I want to just highlight here is the new watch list interface. So this is the watch list I have open now, but you can actually control how many watch lists you have open by clicking the little dot there, and you can say add another widget. That widget can be another watch list. You can add as many of these as you want. You can even have multiple columns if you so choose. All right, we don't need multiple columns here, so I'm going to turn that off. Once you add your watch list will show up on the right here, right? And I just want to highlight, when you click on one of these, it'll give it a little tiny 1-pixel border. That tells you that that is the active watch list, right? When you use your arrow keys to switch symbols, it will switch symbols within the active watch list. And you can switch that by just clicking on one of these. Another cool thing that's new here is the ability to maximize these side panels, right? There's a little maximize button, lets you full screen the side panel, which is a really cool thing if you have 3 or 4 different watch lists all open at once. It gives you a chance to kind of look at that list together. The last thing on watch lists, and I know this is pretty boring stuff, but it's important to just understand how it works, is if the same symbol exists in both watch lists, I don't think that they do here, if you click on it in one, it'll highlight it in the other as well. So if you have 2 separate scans or 3 separate scans being run simultaneously, and one symbol is appearing in all of them or more than one of them, when you click on that symbol, you'll be able to see that very quickly, right? Which is something that that most scanning tools don't allow you to do, is cross-reference between different scan results that you might have. The scanner itself is accessed by clicking on the Market Scanner button on the top right corner. So when I click on that, it's going to open the scanning dialog along the bottom of the screen here. Oops, sorry, 1 second to get this little live storm window out of the way. And when you open a scanner, it kind of looks like this. You can make it a little bit bigger if you choose to. I'm going to take the indicators off just to make the chart a little cleaner. And you have a list of pre-made scans along the left column. When you first log into the Market Scanner, there will be about 24 pre-made scans in here. So we are in the process of building them out. There will be a lot of standard strategies that people like: MACD crosses, Bollinger Band Keltner channel squeezes, TD sequential scans. I think I'm going to show you a TD sequential scan here in a moment. And all different kinds of scans that utilize different conditions will become available right off the bat to give you a way to learn. But I do want to point out that the scanners use the same language to express your conditions that multi-factor alerts use, that backtesting uses. So if you're a TrendSpider user already, you should feel right at home with this, right? It should work right out the gate and do exactly what you expect it to do. Along the top of the scanner is a name. If you want to save a scanner, this is the name that you can use to save it, right? The next thing is the scan through list. And this is a very interesting and useful list because this contains dozens of indice component lists, right? So we have taken the time to build a list of all the NASDAQ 100 symbols, the NASDAQ Biotechnology Index. And this goes on for a while. There's the Russell 2000 in here. There's all the different indices. And then there's also industry-specific scan categories. So if you want to scan just educational companies or finance and insurance companies, you can do that. And that's really cool because you don't have to build these lists yourself. But if you do want to build a list yourself, you can definitely scan through your own list as well. I'm going to scan through this list I created a while ago called Biotech. I think it has about 400 or so symbols in it. I could be a little off on that. I'm a primarily biotech trader, so I like to look at biotech symbols. The next thing is on the left here, you have your list of pre-made scans. And we'll have, as I mentioned, you'll have all the ones that, all the standard ones in there. Right now, I just have the ones that I've been testing with. What's cool about this is when you click on one of these, if you don't have a scan already running, right? For example, I'm going to choose Bollinger Band Squeeze. And it's going to, if you don't have a scan already selected, it's going to automatically conduct that scan for you. So here I'm searching the S&P 500 for Bollinger Band Keltner channel squeeze symbols, right? And you'll see that it's going to take a few minutes to process because this is the S&P 500 index. There's a lot of symbols in it. But you can see it's already identified 32. And you know, as some time passes, it's going to find them all here as well. If you start a scan that you don't want to continue, you can always click the little stop button here. That gives you the ability to kind of stop a scan. Actually, this scan finished already. So, and that will let you stop the scan. The other thing that's worth noting here is you can select the type of chart that you conduct a scan on. So if you choose to, you can scan raindrop charts, you can scan traditional candle charts, and so forth. Seems like my browser has frozen here. This is beta software, so you guys will have to bear with me for a moment while I refresh that.
So to answer Derek's question, can you run 2 or 3 scans at one time? Yes.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Actually, that's one of the core principles of the scanner is the ability to scan multiple conditional sets at one time. You'll have to bear with me for 1 second here because my browser has frozen. Which of course this happens during a live demonstration. Give me just 1 second here.
I can also share mine too if you need.
It should work. I'm just on a very crappy hotel internet here on a laptop, so it's just give me 1 second, and I should be able to take over. And if not, I'll have you take it over. Nope, there we go. So once you've identified a scan that you like, and I will pull that up here in 1 second. I'm gonna just hide the scanner here to kind of make my point. But once you found a scan that you like, you can select it as a watch list. You'll notice this is the same list of symbols, or I'm sorry, list of universes that was available in the scanner itself. So if I select the biotech list, which is the one I had, I see all the symbols under it. But if I select like BB Squeeze or one of the scans that I've created, it's going to perform the scan and put that list in the watch list itself. And for whoever asked about running multiple scans at once, this is how you do it, right? You use the market scanner to define your scanning conditions, right? And then you can use the watch list to highlight and show them to you, and you can have more than one open at one time, which is really cool. And once you have these open in your watch list, you can then go through them one by one, and you can run back tests on them, perform analysis on them, and so forth. Let's see. So let's see if there's questions here. Derek, I mentioned earlier, it should not lag your system using 3 scans at once. My system's lagging here because I'm on a very bad connection. As this presentation just happened to coincide with a trip that I'm on. But you should be able to run up to 5 scans at one time with absolutely no lag. Most of the processing takes place server side, so that it's not actually taking place on your computer. Rob asked if point and figure scans will be available. We don't support point and figure charts yet. As soon as we support them, we'll support scanning on them as well. Joe asks, what are some of the most profitable scans you're using personally? You know, I look for divergence. So I also look for TD sequential down sequences. We will include templates for those with the scanner. But profitability doesn't depend on the scan so much. Like, that's only the beginning part of it. There's also execution of trades, analysis that go into it. So I don't want to imply that, you know, the scanner will make anybody profitable if they don't already have a strategy that they're using. But you know, if you have a strategy that you're profitable for already, the scanner will help you be more effective at that. It'll help you find more symbols that match your criteria and ultimately make better trading decisions there. Daniel and Rob asked if there will be non-browser based options or a mobile app. The answer is yes, there will be, but probably not until after we integrate the brokerages. And then Jerry asked, can you scan for option only stocks? That's a really good question. I'll have to get back to you on that. I don't know off the top of my head. I assume that we should be able to create a universe of stocks that are optionable only and make a scan limited to just that.
There's also a ton of questions in the question tab too, Dan.
Yep. Just flipped over to that. So I answered Joe's question already. Sri Harsha, yes. So you can do that very easily, actually. When you're creating a scan condition, you can simply just use normal TrendSpider markup. So you can say, okay, on the 5-minute chart, I want a price that closed, you know, I don't know, greater than constant value of $5. That'll give you stocks that are trading over $5. And you can do the same thing for your lower bound condition, where you can say, you know, where price close is less than, call it $50. Right, so that'll give you a scan that will find symbols that are between 5 and 50, and then you can add any other conditions that you might dream up underneath that, and the system will go out there and find it. And you know, here we can just do a quick scan of any Dow Jones 30 companies that trade in that range, right, which is Cisco and Pfizer here. And you saw how fast that pulled up there. Mark asked, is it possible to add a horizontal ray to the drawing tool that extends both left and right? Mark, yeah, that is possible. That's something that we'll need to get back to you on, and I'll make a note of that, and we'll check with the developers about that. Mark also asked if it will work with E-Trade or Tastyworks in the future for setting up trades. Definitely, we hope to, at least. You know, each broker is going to be unique. We're going to have to work with each broker on a one-on-one individual basis to integrate it correctly. But we will hopefully cover E-Trade for sure. E-Trade's a major brokerage, and we have a lot of customers who use it. And Tastyworks is getting very popular as well. Mark also asked about anchored view app and infinite scroll. So I can briefly touch on that. And if you need some more help with that, let us know. One thing that is cool about anchored VWAP is it's back testable, but basically it's a volume weighted average price that's anchored to a particular point in time. So you can right click on any candle. I just right clicked on this candle and add an anchored VWAP. The first time you do it, it'll give you a link to an article that explains how it works. And it adds this blue line to your chart, which is the volume weighted average price from this point in time, from December 24th, 2018. And you can add as many of these to your chart as you want. And then you can right click on these and create an alert on them if you choose to. And these are very, very powerful. We have, I mean, you can even see here, I anchored it at this major low here, and price bounced directly off it in early December right here before gapping over it on this particular symbol here. Anchored VWAP is one of my favorite tools. Jake uses it all the time. Mark also asked about infinite scroll. Infinite scroll simply means you can scroll back in time as much as you need to, right? So you can download more history on your charts. You can zoom out further, and you can click and drag and scroll into the past. In the past, TrendSpider was limited to, I think it was like 320 candles or so. So that was an enhancement that came by popular demand. Lots of users asked for that. Shri Harsha asked if anything to make the strategy test UI a little less complex would be helpful for laymen. It's difficult to use. It is, I mean, look, I'll be honest. Any type of backtesting tool out there is going to be complicated, right? Because backtesting is a complicated thing. But I will say that the one in TrendSpider, and I've used a lot of these, the one in TrendSpider is by far the easiest to use, simply because it does not require you to learn how to write code. Most backtesters, at least the real ones, the sophisticated ones that have complex conditionality built into them, require you to learn how to write code. You're going to have to learn Python. You're going to have to learn C#. You're going to have to learn some custom proprietary markup language like ThinkScript or PineScript in order to put those to use. Whereas we've opted to build this in a way where you don't have to do that. Right, you don't have to become a programmer to be a better trader. You shouldn't have to. I mean, I firmly believe that, you know, that's one of the reasons why retail traders are at a huge disadvantage, because we all speak trading, right? We all know what a moving average is, and we all have a strategy that revolves around some form of technicals one way or the other, but very few of us can express that strategy in code. And that's the advantage that prop shops and hedge funds and you know, bank trade desks, et cetera, have over retail traders. I know one company, I always talk about this, but I know one prop trading firm here in Chicago. I won't name them, but they primarily an options trading shop. They have like 10 traders on staff. They have like 250, 300 programmers, right? And they, you know, come up with strategies and then automate those strategies. And their programmers write code to do that. And that is beyond the means of a retail trader. You don't have the resources, you don't have the time. You know, like the time you spend learning to code is time you spent not trading. It's time you spent not earning a living. So that's something that we think can be dramatically improved with this interface. We will try to make it easier. We will also include you know, tons of pre-made scans to help you get going. But you know, I don't know how much simpler it can get. I mean, you know, it is backtesting, right? There is a lot of complexity to it. At least you don't have to learn Python to do it. You also asked if we'll support Webull. We are definitely talking to Webull. We know those guys. They're really nice people. They have a great platform, and we hope for them to be one of our brokers that we integrate this year. But we haven't determined the you know, exact order or timing of which brokers will integrate when. Mark asked if you can run a scan with chart pattern recognition. Yes, you can, and I can show you exactly what that would look like. But it works just like backtesting, just like alerts. You can simply add conditions. So you can say, look, I want to find any stock in the Dow Jones 30 where, let's say, the 1 hour chart has ended in engulfing, you know, so let's call it bullish engulfing, right? And we can just run a scan and we'll find any 1 hour chart from the S&P or Dow Jones 30 where those conditions are true. And it doesn't look like there are any in the Dow Jones 30 on the 1 hour, but we can try biotech, a different list, and see if we come up with something there. And this is what's cool about it. Like, I'm able to just mess around here and, play with conditions and search the market for those conditions. Before I would go on FinViz, or I'd go on, I don't know, StockTwits, and try to make a list of my own, go through each symbol one by one. And before I could even decide if I wanted to trade or not, right, that symbol, I would have to see if it even fit my setup, even at a high level, right? And this is just awesome because I don't have to do that ever again. Mark also asked about chart patterns such as double tops and bottoms. Not yet, but that's coming for sure. And I think that's Sri Harsha. I'm not sure about those patterns. Drop us an email and we'll definitely check into that. We have a list of hundreds of patterns that we're working to add. They each need to be added one by one and then tested thoroughly to make sure they're accurate. So those very well may be on the patterns list. I'm just not sure offhand here. So let's see. In chat, Rob asked if there was a mobile app. I think I answered that. The answer is yes. At some point we will. Is there any other questions? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, TD sequential, and what's the oscillator you're using right there?
This is a SMI erdogic oscillator. I've never really used it. It's just a newer indicator that we added that I was playing with. Right, so I make no comment about it at all because I'm just not familiar with it. Normally, I'm a very simple guy. I use a modified RSI oscillator. I use 9-period, and I calculate it from the high-low average instead of the close price. TD sequential is definitely one of my favorite scans, and I've been playing with it a lot. And you can see the template for that. This will be part of your account when you first log in and see the scanner. But you can see it's a very simple setup. Right, we are simply saying the 1 hour price close was less than the 1 hour price close 4 candles ago, and then we proceed for 9 candles. The first one is 0, which is why it goes to 8. And this will search the market. It's actually doing that right now on the S&P 500 for charts that match that TD sequential down sequence. Derek, Elliott wave, hopefully this year. I don't want to say next year, but I'm hoping for this year. What is, I'm not sure what the, yeah, Rob, it's not available yet. So this is a new feature that we're launching in a few weeks here. I think I mentioned earlier, it's scheduled for the 15th of January. It may be before or after that. Mike, absolutely. So that's one of the whole ideas here is you can actually hide the watch list on the right completely and just work with the preview watch list here. And notice when I clicked on the symbol that's highlighted now, if I use my down arrow key, right, it's going to just switch through this list, right? What I do recommend you do is once you've decided that you like your scan, right, that you like your scan setup, you move it over to a watch list on the right and hide the market scanner because you don't need to be messing with these conditions too often. Once you define your scans and you're happy with them, you can just save them as a watch list and you don't really need to open the market scanner. I do want to highlight one quick thing about this. One thing we added to make this easier for you to scan across different time frames is the ability to change them en masse. So this is a 1 hour scan on the S&P 500. But let's say that I want to run the same scan on the daily chart, right? This way I can just switch all the time frames to daily. It's going to switch them all to daily there, and I can rerun the scan, this time using daily chart data instead of the hourly chart data. Which is a really cool thing. And we're not going to probably find many TD sequential down sequences on the daily chart, given how the market's been ripping. Looks like we found one here on SYF, and you can see that right here. I mean, you've got at least 9 candles, with each one being lower than the 1-4 before. Yes, you can absolutely scan for 9 or 13 of the TD sequential. You can set that up however you want. Stephen asked if we'll be adding Canadian data. Yes, we really want to add Canadian data very soon. One of the markets we get asked about all the time, and it pains us to say that we don't have it yet because there's just so many great traders out in Canada to trade those markets, especially with the pot stocks and all of that. So we hope to add that soon. We're not sure which areas of the world we're going to be adding first, but Canada's very high on the list. So let's see. Mark, you can definitely run a scan again new IPOs that have come out, but you would need to provide a watch list of those symbols. We will look into adding a recent IPO smart watch list that will update automatically, like our indices and indice component watch lists do. But I don't believe we have one of those right off the bat. Daniel asked, how do I go about deciding which indicators are added? I mean, I don't know the best way to answer that. I've been trading for 11 years, right? And over that period of time, I think every trader goes through a process where you end up testing hundreds of indicators looking for an edge. For me, it was very simple. I used the RSI 9. And really occasionally like a EMA or something, like a single 100 or 105 period EMA on my charts. I don't use a lot of indicators, but I'm also much more about divergence trading, right? And I like to see RSI divergence and a low and a trend line breakout, right? Other people trade very differently. And what I use in my trading isn't even close to what Jake uses in his, right? We all have different styles. And part of the beauty of the scanning and backtesting functions of TrendSpider is the ability to define your style, to experiment with a wide range of things and see what works best for you, because it's not going to be the same as what will work best for me. Robert, no, we do not sleep. We think sleep is for the weak, and we also think lunch is for the weak. We just code and trade. So let's see, are there any other questions here? Can you please talk a bit about heat maps and the volume by price one? Yeah, I'll let Jake touch on volume by price because he's a much bigger user of it than I am. I use it occasionally, but honestly I'm not a huge volume guy. I know to some people that is sacrilege, but anchored VWAP and raindrops are pretty much the extent of my use of volume. I usually don't even have a volume bar chart on my charts, right? Because I what's volume really mean? At least to me, right? And then let's see what other questions are here. Wyckoff apexes, no, but that's something Russ, our CTO, and I were talking about not long ago. And we think Wyckoff pattern recognition could be a really cool thing. We do not provide AD charts yet. That's something to think about. Joe, when you anchor VWAP, it is intended to only anchor to one symbol. Anchored VWAP is a special indicator in TrendSpider that is visual, right? Like you need to anchor it at a point that makes sense to anchor it at. So for most people, and I'll let Jake talk about anchored VWAP a bit too, because he's a big user of that. But to be able to anchor it at the right point means that the next chart, it's not going to be anchored at the right point, right? Like let's say you did it like TC2000 does it or something, where it's just anchored on every chart at a certain date and time. Well, it's not going to be relevant to you. It might even throw you off when you flip symbols and it's now anchored in the middle of a move, right? Not at a high or a low or a gap, just on a random candle. That's not going to do much for you. Joe asked, does it save it so when you reopen the previous chart, the anchor is still there? Yes, it does. You will see a list of your anchored VWAPs on your chart. I can actually show you on my account here because I use on a few different symbols. But when you flip through, actually, I'll just show you here because I have this open here. Right, when you anchor a VWAP on a chart and then switch to a different symbol and switch back, it'll just stay right where you anchored it. Right, so I just anchored this VWAP here on synchrony here. When I switch to a different symbol, it goes away. And when I go back to, what was that, SYF, you'll see that anchored VWAP is back. And what's really neat about these is they will show up in your indicator list. It'll indicate the name of the symbol there, so there's no confusion. And unlike other indicators, you can also right-click on these to remove them. Right, so if you've anchored a bunch of them just to see which ones are best, like I think best practice would say anchor at the gap, anchor at the high, anchor at the low. As you do that and determine which one you want to stick with, you can remove the other ones, right, which are at that point noise and in the way. Joe, you would just anchor it on each symbol. Collapse an indicator list, yeah. Well, I'm actually surprised. We probably should make this easier for people to find because it comes up a lot. If you put your mouse below the last item in an indicator list, it'll give you the collapse indicator list link, right? Otherwise, it's hidden, so it doesn't clutter your chart up too much. But it's always there. It's just people seem to miss that. So I'm happy you asked about that. So that seems to be the extent of the questions. Jake, you want to take back over and maybe talk a little bit about anchored volume by price?
Yep, definitely.
Okay.
Alrighty. Can you see my screen?
Yes, Derek. Briefly, there are, I think, at least a dozen different types of moving averages right now. If there's one that you're looking for that's not available, just ask us, and we'll look into adding it to the list.
I think that is it on the question. So just quickly, the anchored volume by price, the anchored volume profile, if you want to call it that. This is something that I use, and essentially what you're doing is you're getting a view of, at a particular point in time, how much volume is holding at different price levels. So you can see here, since December 2nd, which was the top of this move up, and then you had a reversal, and ultimately the start of this channel downward, you can see most of the volume is really focused up here around 31. And if anyone's been watching the charts on our Twitter feed, we've kind of been updating this, but you could kind of see the price starting to gravitate towards this area, almost like this acting as a magnet above. And so, for example, Disney did this as well this week. So you had the same thing. You had a ton of volume holding pretty much right at this particular area. And in this falling wedge, you broke out. And then from this area, and I'd probably move this because this is your true reversal point. And you can see how much volume is holding here, and how, if we turn this on to a hollow candle, there was a pretty big rejection here right at that supply. And so a ton of supply is going to make the price not go up as quickly because there's a ton of people holding. And, it really, at first at least, it could act as resistance. And then once the price gets above this area, then it starts to act as support. And then you can sometimes get a bounce off this area. So CGC is another cool example here. And this is actually an example with the anchored VWAP as well. But same thing, except I anchored it from the bottom of this reversal area. And, this chart has changed a lot because of this recent price action. But as we were moving down, the price was literally moving right down to this volume below, which was acting as support. But then you also had the anchored VWAP from this gap down, which acted as perfect support as well. And you could see it acting here. And this was actually a suggestion by Brian Shannon, who actually invented the anchored VWAP. I originally had it down here at this pivot, and you can see it actually didn't hold that area. You had 1 day of capitulation before finally reversing, but you can see how this area acted as support, where you had a really strong bounce off that area. It was really, I think, just a short squeeze. But either way, you could really tell where the supply and demand were. And that's what the anchored VWAP is doing as well. It's telling you from a particular point in time what is the true equilibrium price and where is volume on the buy side and the sell side. And using this with raindrops is really helpful as well. So Disney's another example of this, where we had a gap up, kind of the same thing we used on CGC, except on CGC it was a gap down. I anchored it from this gap up, and what you can see with the raindrops here is you can literally see on this day that we broke down, you've got this kind of interesting setup where on the regular chart, if you're using just a candle, I'll just do hollow candles here. You couldn't really see much action above the anchored VWAP here. You barely closed above it. But here you can see how much volume was actually holding above the anchored VWAP here. And then you had 2 days of continuation up. They were red candles, but I mean, this was a really strong trade on the option side. And it's really interesting because if you guys, if you kind of visualize this setup here and then compare it to, say, Activision, you've literally got an identical setup here from this breakout point of the channel. So it'll be interesting to see if you got to move up, or you've got kind of something that happened here where you've actually got kind of the same exact setup. You've got the volume above the anchored VWAP from this breakout point here, but then you had a continuation down. So, it doesn't always work. It's not an end-all be-all, but it is definitely something that helps visualize where that volume is holding. Same thing here, though. You can tell if we anchor from this breakout point, you can see how much volume is really holding at the current price. Now, if we move this anchored point, let's say, to this pivot area before we reversed and moved higher, you can see still a ton of that volume is holding at this price level, and this may act as possible support for the price to possibly move up. It doesn't always happen like that, but that's kind of what, there's been a really cool amount of case studies over the last couple of weeks of these types of setups continuing higher. Shop was one of those. On the daily, you had the same thing. I anchored it from this reversal point right here. And then you had a ton of volume holding right here. And then you can see how quickly the price jumped up. You had another kind of bout of volume here, and then you had a nice gap up. So that's something that's really cool and something that I personally have been utilizing probably the most on the platform, on top of the automated trend lines. If you guys are following us on Twitter, we post a ton of charts. After the 10th or 11th chart, I'm like, all right, I'm going to have the system completely, look for these areas for me. And most of the time, they're finding the pattern or the setup quicker than I would have found it, with my own eyes. So that's something that really makes things a lot more efficient as well. That's about all I have. I will post some more case studies over the next week. We have a presentation on Wednesday for the CMTA, Charter Market Technician Association, and we'll be doing some more of case studies on this. So I'm not sure if, Dan, do they send out the recording, or is it pretty private? Oh, he's muted. I'm not sure, but we'll definitely next time we do a Sunday webinar, we will do some more cool case studies here. But for now, I think that's about it. Let me see if there's any questions here that I missed.
There's a few. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting there. Daniel asked, where can you go to request new indicators? If you click on the indicator dialog, the three dots next to the indicator button, there is at the very bottom a request button. So you can always add any indicators that you're interested in. I can tell you ATR volatility is on the list. I'm not sure if it's a Jim Berg's ATR volatility, but there's an indicator by that name in our list. And then Robert asked, was able to anchor once, where do you click to initiate? Just right click on any candle. When you right click on it, it'll let you anchor it from any point in time. Caesar, yeah, all of our webinars are archived on the website. If you have trouble accessing one, just drop us a note. We'll drop you a link. Cumulative delta, we'll have to look into that one. I'm not 100% sure about cumulative delta, although delta is something that I think there's actually more than one item in the indicator list with the word delta in it. So I'm just not sure if that specific one that you're talking about is in there. But if you drop me a note, just Dan at TrendSpider, I'll check. Michael, we do support Forex. We support 950 different Forex pairs. It's extensive. The only thing, and Jay can show you, is you have to use a caret symbol with when you're pulling up a Forex pair. So it's this little arrow up. It's Shift 6 on most keyboards.
But you don't even have to. I mean, I just typed it in without it. If you know so. Correct.
And then Rob, Jake has a 2-chart view here, and the right one is raindrops, or left one's raindrops, right one was candles. And then Mark asks, will you still get alerts if your computer's off? Yes. That's one of the biggest things about TrendSpider that I think is worth noting. This tool, this software, we all have lives and jobs, right? As much as I wish I could be a full-time trader all day long, like we're building a product here. So I can't stare at my charts all the time. I don't always have TrendSpider open. The fact that alerts will hit my phone, even if I go to the bathroom or run across the street, or I'm a meeting, or on a call, is a big part of my trading. Otherwise, I'll miss my chances to get in and out of things all the time. So I heavily rely on alerts specifically for that reason. We do support futures. Unfortunately, they're end of day, so they update at midnight. But we do have down to 1 minute data on them. And through one of our broker integrations, we'll offer real-time futures sometime this year. I'm not 100% sure of this, but it'll most likely be through TradeOvate and possibly Interactive Brokers, where when you hook up your account, you'll be able to pull in the futures data from your account into TrendSpider, which will be a way to get real-time futures into the platform. Rob, we don't touch options at the moment. We do want to support options in some way. We're just not sure exactly how. We probably will not tackle anything options related until we're done with all of the automated trading of underlying, pure equity. And then once we're done with the equity side of things, then options are a natural progression point from there. I think there's one more question on this questions tab. Nope, just a thank you. Okay, do we have any other slides? I think we have a couple slides left, or maybe that's it.
We have questions, but we just went over all those. One thing that I wanted to mention for those that do want to help spread the word and get some commissions for doing so and helping us out, you can reach out at jake@trendspider.com, and I would be happy to discuss more. If you're not a customer yet, you can definitely use the coupon code WEB20 to save 20% off any of our plans for a full 12 months. So definitely, if you are on the fence, you can use this coupon code to lock in that discount. And really, anyone, please continue to share your feedback, suggestions, thoughts, feedback. Any type of feedback is useful. If it's good, if it's bad, it only makes us a better product and a better company. So, thank you so much for joining. And I think that's all I have, Dan.
Totally. A couple questions popped in. To get a referral link, just drop Jake a note. He'll hook you up. Daniel, the scanner release date is currently scheduled for the 15th of January. So like less than 2 weeks from now. It may happen on time. It may be a little bit later. It's out of Jake and my control, right? The development team kind of has their own mind. But that's because we put a tremendous amount of time into quality assurance, right? So right now the scanners are mostly done. We have access to them internally, but we can't release them until they've passed QA. And because of what they are, the quality assurance process for them is robust, right? We're conducting hundreds of scans every day and then manually checking every symbol that comes up in those scans to make sure that it is accurate, that there's no errors, no bugs, no problems. And even then, when we release the scanner, it'll have a beta label on it. That's because, we don't actually believe a product is fully tested until customers have dived in and messed around with it and tried to break it. You guys will find things that we will miss. And, we ask that, if you find something that you need fixed or something that's not ideal, tell us. Like Jake said, we really, really, really only can make this product better with your feedback and help. So, okay. Well, look, it looks like we're out of questions here. We're also a little over time. So I just want to say thank you, everybody, for your support, for taking time out of your Sunday to join us here today. I hope you like this product. I hope you enjoy the scanner when it comes out. And I really look forward to working with you all and talking with you and helping everybody out here. So thank you again, and signing off.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.